This is Pharma Forum web editor Nicole Raleigh, and I am on site in Lisbon, Portugal for Bio-Europe Spring 2026. And with me today is Marjorie Sidhoum, who is Vice President, Business Development and Corporate Communication at Kainova Therapeutics. Pleasure to speak with you today, Marjorie.
Thank you for the invitation.
So, Montreal, Canada-based Kainova is a key player for breakthrough treatments for patients in immuno-oncology and inflammation, with key programs including a unique clinical stage TREG-depleting anti-CCR8 antibody with differentiated competitive features and a first-in-class pre-IND stage biased agonist, or rather antagonist, of PAR2. So I was wondering if you could tell us more, Marjorie, both about Kainova's pipeline and the landscape of unmet patient needs the company is seeking to address with this antagonist of PAR2.
Yeah, sure. So at Kainova Therapeutics, formerly Domain Therapeutics, we are developing a pipeline of proprietary GPCR targeting programs for immuno-oncology and inflammation. So what is the most important for us is that our research is rooted into the deep understanding of how these GPCRs shape this immune dysfunction. And that's the reason why we are now positioning in immuno-oncology and inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
So the lead asset is DT7012, the TREG-depleting CCR8 antibody that is in oncology and in the clinic now. And the asset DT9046 is another asset that is focused on inflammation. So it's a very tough target that led a couple of companies in the failure because this pharmacology is very challenging. And thanks to our know-how and our expertise of GPCRs, we have been able to crack these targets. And we are very proud to have identified the first small molecule candidate, whereas the couple of competitors that are now very early in the clinic are all with a biologic and with a different biology as well. So this target has a rationale for immunology diseases such as atopic dermatitis, IBD, migraine, but also rheumatoid arthritis. So it's very wide potential.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Gosh, brilliant. So you and I obviously were speaking at Bio-Europe Spring, and recently Kainova secured 32 million Canadian dollars to accelerate development of its pipeline in a financing that was led by Investissement Québec, with continued support from long-standing investors also. So what does this mean for Kainova?
So we know that over the last years, raising funds is very challenging for a lot of biotechs. So we are very proud to have raised this 32 million Canadian dollars. That's clearly the fact that we have managed to attract new investors. So you mentioned Investissement Québec, but also that reflects the fact that our historical investors are confident in our capacity to deliver. So it's a clear recognition of our expertise, recognition of the leadership team, and the potential for our portfolio to create value. So, and for us, we will dedicate, of course, the majority of this investment to progress the DT7012 TREG-depleting CCR8 antibody in the clinic, because we know that when we have a clinical stage assets, this drives a lot of budgets.
Yes.
So, and that will be the objective, and we will deliver in 2026 a couple of catalysts that will allow us to reach the next phase of fundraising. So this Series B was really strategic for us.
As you say, good recognition of the promise and potential.
Exactly.
So I was wondering also about Kainova's collaborations with major pharma, as well as physicians and KOLs worldwide. How does that help create long-term value in competitive and fast expanding markets?
Yeah, so for biotech company, the collaboration with pharma is key because it not only bring revenues in complementation or in substitution of the fundraising, but it also recognizes the expertise of the company, either through existing assets or through the technology or the know-how. So at Kainova, formerly Domain, we have a solid track record in collaborating with pharma partners among the top pharma companies. And this is very key to maintain the contact and the fact that the company is well recognized in the field. And you mentioned also the KOL, the physicians. So when the company is preparing the clinical development or is reaching clinical development phases, it's also important to have a solid network of KOLs in the key indications where you want to position. And we have very good network in Europe because we have launched a couple of clinical trials in Europe. Now we are in Australia with a CCR8 antibody candidate. And we have now the CMO based in Boston that we also continue to extend our connection KOL, valuable KOL in North America.
As you say, a global network.
Exactly. Global network is very important.
So what insights have you sort of gleaned from the conference here this year? And those insights, which would be most valuable for our viewers?
Yeah, so we just arrived at the conference, but what we feel yesterday, but we feel that the pharma industry seems to be quite open to early stage collaboration consideration. So it is the open innovation status. Maybe it is the consequence of the several downsizing that was observed in the last years, but they are more open to consider early stage collaboration for sure. What is also that seems to be very important is the recognition of the combination in immuno-oncology. So now that we need to combine, and it's a reality, so it's very important. And the biomarkers, the way you manage to track your population of patients that are more a potential responder of your therapeutics is something that is key. Yeah.
And for you yourself and for Kainova, what would be your closing thoughts for our viewers today?
So very happy to be here to maintain the contact with all the ecosystem, of course. And as we mentioned, 2026 will be a key catalyst, a series of catalysts for our company. And we look forward achieving this catalyst and to continue to communicate on that. And I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to give this overview of Kainova Therapeutics to your audience.
No, absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you very much, Marjorie.
Thank you. Thank you.